back to this ridiculous ceasefire from Trump that he brokered. What has it been now? 9 days? What's the date right now? The 20th. Yeah, I think this was 9 days now. Something like that. 9 or 10 days. I don't even know. And, well, it already collapsed, guys, just like we said, right? And if you were browsing Twitter, you actually found out why, which is even crazier than what we thought. So basically, it's because Netanyahu straight up lied about what happened. And the craziest part is the White House knew that he was lying, and they said nothing. So, which tells you pretty much everything you want to know about who actually runs America's foreign policy, and it's not us. So here's what actually went down based on what I've been looking at so far. So yesterday, there's an explosion in Rafah that kills 2 Israeli soldiers, and Netanyahu's government immediately claims that Hamas militants emerged from, those magic tunnels and fired an anti-tank missile. So this is a deliberate ceasefire violation, of course. So Israel has no choice but to respond with brutal airstrikes, and they proceed to bomb the shit out of Gaza again. They kill like 26 Palestinians, the last number I was looking at. Except that's not what happened at all. Actually, that's not what happened. What actually happened was an Israeli bulldozer owned by a settler was clearing rubble in Rafah, and then he ran over unexploded ordinances. I swear to God. And then that caused the blast. That's it. There was no Hamas attack, no RPG, no militants, just a bulldozer literally hitting a bomb that was already there. So, okay. Well then, what's wrong with this? Well, the White House knew about this within hours. The Pentagon knew about this within hours. Netanyahu knew about this, and it was bullshit. And then he was selling a bunch of bullshit to the media. They just all went along with it because, calling out Israel for fabricating a Hamas attack, right, to break the ceasefire would be too politically costly for us. So instead, we just let our greatest ally make essentially the United States look like fucking idiots on the world stage. Stupendous. I mean, isn't this like the 100th fucking time? So then Israeli journalists themselves, not just American ones or not, like Hamas journalists or whatever. Israeli journalists, they tried to report the truth and the government slapped a gag order on them. So, which, by the way, our government knew. They knew the truth and said absolutely nothing because we're afraid of AIPAC. That's the truth. We're so afraid of AIPAC that we can't actually enforce our own foreign policy. Can you imagine that? This is the strongest nation on earth. I mean, this shit has turned into a complete fucking joke. It's honestly pathetic. Okay? And to make it even more insulting, Israel's national security minister, Ben-Gvir, I'm sure you've heard of his name a few times already. This dude's like hard, right? He came out, literally, there's a video of him on X all over the place, that he says the time for calm is now over, that Israel has all the hostages back. So Hamas let them have all the hostages, right? That was part of the ceasefire agreement, okay? And then he declared that now that all the hostages are back, they need to open the gates of hell on Gaza. That dude shows zero respect for Trump's peace plan. He knows there won't be any consequences. That's why. I have to wonder what Trump could possibly be thinking when he's seeing this shit right now. I mean, he has to be fuming. He got caught off guard by some journalist. They asked him, like, hey, did you hear about this, like the ceasefire being broken and like Israel bombing Gaza? He's like, no, I don't have any idea. We're currently assessing the situation on the ground. Okay, dude. He's got to be fuming, guys. That all he does is care about his reputation. The man's ego won't let him. There's no way he's going to let this slide. But I guess if you just throw some money, some cash his way, that temper drops in proportion to the size of the check. Probably. That's the MO for Trump. You gotta get the checkbook out and then he'll move his ass. Otherwise, you're not getting shit. So, all right. Anyways, so there's a foreign, or I should say, think about that. That's a foreign government official. He's openly mocking an American president, no less. And what's the response from us? Silence. Because admitting we have no control over our own allies is too fucking embarrassing. So we just pretend like it's a kind of a form of a normal management of an alliance. When actually it's just a demonstration how thoroughly our political system is captured by foreign interest. The world's watching this, dude. Let me explain to you guys why this even matters. Like just beyond the humiliation aspect of itself. You have to remember, Trump spent weeks brokering the ceasefire. He literally got the hostages released. He got the humanitarian aid flowing. He was calling it proof that America First diplomacy works, right? Went to Israel, gave a speech. He got the standing ovation as the supreme goy of the universe. That shit lasted 9 fucking days, 10 days before Netanyahu destroyed that shit. Think about it. With a potentially, you could call this potentially a false flag operation that was using a bulldozer accident as pretext. At least you could say that for sure. So 9 fucking days. That's how long American diplomatic credibility pretty much lasts before Israel. And when they make the decision that shit's inconvenient, then they'll blow it up. And they know we can't do anything about it because the Israel lobby has too much power over our politicians. All that campaign money that they're fucking taking, all the AIPAC donations, all the primary threats, right? There it is. That's the power incarnate right there. So, and look, I need to go off on this for a second because the AIPAC problem is way bigger than just, let's just say, this incident. It's ironic that we act like foreign interference in our elections is this huge scandal when it's Russia or China, right? Constantly hear about the Russia hoax and all that stuff, or, China infiltrating us and stealing IP and all this stuff in general, whether it's for politics or business. But somehow we lose our minds. For example, with TikTok in China, right? When it was Chinese owned. So we passed laws about foreign agents having to register, but AIPAC, they operate completely openly. They're spending tens of millions to primary politicians who don't toe the line on Israel. And we just pretend that that's somehow normal and it's, democratic participation. Dude, lobbying is corruption. There's no other way. Lobbying is literally buying off politicians, and that's somehow legal in America. Isn't that crazy? That's insane. That's a foreign lobby with more power than most American interest groups openly bragging about how many politicians they've destroyed. And we're supposed to act like this is fine because it's Israel doing it instead of Russia or China. But the principle is exactly the same, no? It's a foreign influence over American policy corrupting our entire political system, you guys. Come on. What's the difference? Because one is considered our ally? How does that make it right? I guess what really gets me is how blatant they are with that shit. They're not even trying to hide the influence anymore. Netanyahu just fabricates an attack. We know he fabricated it. He knows we know, and he does it anyway because he understands we won't call him out. Ben-Gvir openly says, fuck your ceasefire. We're going back to war, and there's zero consequences for them. That would be unthinkable with any other ally that we have. If a British minister or a Japanese minister openly mocked the U.S. president's peace plan and declared they were ignoring it, there would be diplomatic consequences out the ass. Probably economic consequences too. Definitely at least a political shitstorm. But Israel can do it, and we just have to take it because we let him gain so much leverage that we can't even act in our own interest anymore because those interests conflict with theirs. It's insane. I mean, we watched that video a few days ago, right? Do you guys remember the video? For those that haven't seen it, it was some guy walking around just asking U.S. representatives who do they like more, Israel or America, and they couldn't pick. Most of the it took him for 8 minutes of nonstop. He found one, barely, that was able to naturally just say, America. Yeah, America first. God, that's insane. Why do we let that happen? Why do we let it continue like this? Well, if you have to think about it logically, think of it like this. Netanyahu's coalition depends on far-right parties that want permanent war with Palestinians. They want to annex Gaza and expel everyone. So any ceasefire that might actually lead to peace threatens his government staying in power. You understand? Which means that he needs to find excuses to break it. So when a bulldozer accidentally hits a bomb, he immediately spins it as Hamas attack, emerging from magic tunnels of rubble, because they fucking glassed the place pretty much, and uses it to restart operations that his coalition's demanding anyway. And especially that the Trump administration, which apparently knows this is bullshit, helps him cover it up because the political cost of exposing the lie is higher than the cost of looking weak and stupid. And on the Trump front too, isn't it insane that he's over there in Israel giving a speech, patting himself on the back, literally making himself look like an idiot in real time to people that are actively disrespecting the shit out of this man? I mean, geez Louise, when you're over there begging the prime minister or the president to give Netanyahu a pardon, he's a good war president. He's the best war president. What, dude? Like, what are in the Epstein files? What do they have on you? Because you're groveling to the president to give the prime minister, who's who's essentially super corrupt, and where they were going to arrest his ass before this war, anyways. Like the Israelis were going to arrest him on charges for, like, I don't know what it was, embezzlement, fraud, or something like that, corruption charges. He has a bunch of stuff going on. That shit's crazy to me, dude. You're begging them to give him a fucking pardon? Are you serious, guys? Our president. Okay. That's so stupid. But I guess that's better for optics, right? Better to look incompetent than to challenge Israel and face the wrath of the Zionist lobby, right? I guess so. I mean, that tells you pretty much everything about who's actually in charge in the United States. That's fuck, dude. It's like David and Goliath, except somehow David is beating the shit out of Goliath like effortlessly. How did this possibly happen? Wow. China and Russia would dream to have this level of influence. Seriously, it's insane. It almost sounds preposterous. Like we're living in some Tom Clancy book. This is not real history, or it's some alternative. I don't know. Anyways, China, they're watching this. Russia's watching this. Iran is probably watching this freshly after getting bombed. Every adversary we have is literally seeing America that can't enforce a basic agreement with its own fucking allies. That's insane. We let them lie to us publicly. We help them cover it up. And that makes us look what? Pathetic, dude. And weak in ways that actually matter for our credibility everywhere. Do you think our threats will mean anything now that we're just so under the heel of Israel like that? Why would anyone take American diplomatic efforts seriously after this kind of shit? Why would anyone believe our security guarantees or our peace agreements when we can't even stop Israel from fabricating attacks to break a 9-day-old fucking ceasefire? That's insane, isn't it? I don't know, dude. I don't know. I was reading on Twitter, some people were like, that's fine because Hamas are terrorists. Go fuck yourself, bro. If you think that's acceptable to make the United States look like fools. No, it's not. It's never acceptable to just throw your, quote, allies under the bus like that. And the news media, this is like predictably garbage as well, because no one wants to report the fucking truth. The mainstream outlets are still running the same original story about Hamas violating the ceasefire. I've seen it. The old story was that they started this from all these underground tunnels and shit. They're not reporting at all the Israeli bulldozer. They're not reporting that the White House knew, and they decided to say nothing. From the New York Times to CNN, the usual propaganda outlets for the establishment. They're either ignorant or they're suppressing it. There's no way that they're ignorant, right? But that's the excuse that they'll use. Well, or just still verifying the facts. No, they pretty much know. You have to get your information from X now. That's how insane it is. Because think about it. Reporting the truth means admitting our ally committed a false flag operation, or not even a false flag. Let's just say they broke the ceasefire when they knew that they shouldn't. And saying that out loud is too uncomfortable for our polite society. I mean, you can't say at Georgetown cocktail parties the same shit without being labeled an anti-Semite, right? So any critique about Israel just lands you the label anti-Semite. It's kind of crazy. When have you ever not been allowed to just critique a government without it being about the entire people? As if every single Israeli supports the government. Please. That's like saying every American is responsible for the United States government. Do you know how many people hate or hated Biden when he was in office? Americans. Same shit. Do you know how many people hate Trump right now that he's in office? Do you think that they represent every single American? But, okay. If you criticize Israel, you must hate Jews. Like, that's wild. That's a crazy take. So, I don't know. Conservative outlets aren't doing any better either. They're so captured by the pro-Israel donors that criticizing Israel means losing funding. So, left or right, it doesn't matter. They just repeat the official narrative about Hamas being untrustworthy terrorists. And, they didn't actually do anything in this specific case. It was literally a construction accident, you guys, that got weaponized into justification for bombing civilians and killing like 26 people, maybe more by now. Of course, more by now. Those are just the numbers I read. You what, dude? So we get this coordinated suppression about the truth across the left and the right media. And the American people are left thinking that Hamas violated the ceasefire, for those that buy it, mostly boomers that watch on TV, that actually, without even knowing it, it was a fabrication and we helped sell it. We're culpable in this. All right, this is the same president that wants a peace prize, dude. Isn't that crazy? So anyways, I guess the GOP is particularly pathetic for this because they claim to be America first, and tough on foreign influence, but when it comes to Israel, they just roll over completely, dude. Trump got rolled. His own administration covered up Netanyahu's fabrication rather than exposing it. And now he's got to pretend like the ceasefire still exists when Ben Gvir openly say they're going back to war. The gates of hell will open on them. That's crazy. That shit is humiliating for Trump personally, but it's also humiliating for America as a whole. And the fact that nobody in the GOP will call this out shows how captured they are. Maybe besides like MTG and Massey, that's the only ones I've seen. And by the way, Massey, Trump wants to primary the like one single dude not taking money from Israel. Like, come on, man. This is insane. The GOP will literally show you through their actions just how captured they are. That's wild to me. They would rather Trump look weak than challenge the Israel lobby. And that tells you where their priorities are, where their priorities actually are. It's insane. I don't understand like how Americans can see this shit happening. And then there's other videos. I can't believe the shit over the weekend that settlers in Israel were going into, I don't know, it was some field of where Palestinians were living. There were these fields of olive trees. They were going around with clubs, and a dude was clubbing a grandma, clubbed some other guy. And there's a massive post right now that was showing some investigative journalist was there watching this stuff. They got pinned down by a bunch of settlers and they were throwing rocks at them and nearly got killed. And the IDF didn't help protect them. Even he texted the embassy in Israel and we're like, we can't help you. Dude, the American embassy can't help you in Israel. That's crazy. That's crazy. You watched a woman get clubbed nearly to death. She got sent to the hospital like brain damage. A young guy too. He looked like in his 20s or 30s. And he's got this weird stick club literally hitting her on the head. You could watch all this stuff. It's crazy, right? But we're the crazy ones for talking about it, apparently. And that's why I want to be clear about something before some Hasbara troll starts fucking screeching at what I'm saying. I'm not saying Israel doesn't have a legitimate security concern or that Hamas aren't fucking terrorists. Okay. Or that Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself. That's not what I'm saying. And that's not even true at all. I'm not disputing any of those. Okay. What I am saying is that fabricating a Hamas attack to break a U.S. brokered ceasefire is indefensible. Using a bulldozer accident as a pretext to kill 26 innocent people is indefensible. Openly mocking American diplomatic efforts after lying to us is indefensible. Do you understand? And the United States government knowing about the fabrication and covering it up because we're too afraid of diplomatic or political consequences to actually enforce our own fucking foreign policy, that's fucking pathetic. And it proves we're not a superpower anymore. We're a client state. We're pretending to be in charge while actually taking orders from a tiny country because they captured our political system through lobbying and donations. That's the fucking truth, and blackmail. Don't forget that, of course. Can't forget that one. Lobbying, donations, blackmail. That's not anti-Semitism. That's just observable fact. They lied. We knew they lied. We went along with the lie. And now they're back to bombing Gaza while openly disrespecting our diplomatic efforts. And there is nothing we can do about it because the lobby controls too many politicians. You understand how the game's played? You can call me whatever you want, but that's the facts and they won't change. Okay. And apparently this is just going to keep happening because, we're not willing to do what it takes to fix this permanently, which is one, breaking AIPAC's power over Congress and actually conditioning our aid to Israel on them respecting American diplomatic efforts. But that would require political courage that nobody in Washington has. Nobody's got giant balls like that. So we'll keep getting humiliated. That's fine. Trump will keep looking weak. Our credibility keeps eroding in the eyes of the international community. And the 9-day ceasefires will be the best we can fucking manage because we've given up power. We gave up all the power to enforce anything on our own ally. That's where we are, you guys. That's what a captured government looks like in the world today. And until we're willing to admit it, everybody across the aisle, like left and right, and actually do something about it, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. You're going to keep voting people in and you're going to keep getting guess who? Guess who? John McCain's, boys. No matter who you vote for, it somehow turns out to be a John McCain. I keep reading that comment everywhere on X. Doesn't matter who you vote for, you get John McCain. It seems to be true. What the hell, dude?